Well, hello there. This is another quick review on some more cheap and nasty HaT miniatures. Now, they're not that nasty. Again, a nice beginning point for someone who's not really into the hobby or someone who's just looking for a lot of miniatures for very little money. And HaT miniatures is not a bad way to go. So yes, I've saw other reviews of this product, this specifically the British Light Infantry product. They were a little bit old and a little bit German at times, but they were pretty good. But I thought I'd just do a little updated version. I've been painting a lot of these guys because I've been putting together a convict rebellion, the Battle of Rouse Hill, and these guys have been my go-to red coats. Were they a part of the New South Wales Corps, the famous Rum Corps? Sort of, but they'll do the job for me. So in the meantime, I've gotten to know these figures fairly well, some strengths, some weaknesses, and I'll give you a look at my average paint job and what they look like. I hope this is useful. So as I said, they're HaT miniatures, British Light Infantry. It is 1:72 scale, as you can see, and indeed it's got just less than 50 miniatures in the box. It is bog standard HaT stuff, a few pictures on the back of what they're sort of meant to look like, which are kind of informative. And I got these from my local modeling shop. They're more like dioramas and stuff is what they go for. But they're pretty available. They're available and they're cheap, which is exactly what some people want. And so here they are on the sprues. And please excuse the makeshift background. I realized that my mat was blue and these guys are blue, which is obviously not ideal for showing on camera. But again, they're blue, which is quite interesting. They're red coats, and HaT sometimes puts out minis that are in a red. But I'm assuming it's something to do with the plastic they had available and the plastic that was cheap. These guys are blue, which is a bit of a missed opportunity. Anyway, here they are. As you can see, we've got ourselves a fair bit of that sort of, is it flash? The little lines from the molding process. These guys are cheap because they are just sort of pumped into a mold. You don't get to move their sort of limbs about or manipulate them in any way. But again, they're relatively cheap, and so that's why, and they can mass produce them quickly. But of course, the consequence is a lot of this sort of thing. A lot of this flash, or this trimming, whatever it's called. And most times you can sort of trim some of it off. Other times it's harder to do. And so the end result is you will have a little bit of that edging around your miniatures at the end of the day, as you'll see, unless you're very meticulous with shaving them off. Now, the quality of these blokes is not too bad on the whole. As you can see, you get a nice little bit of detail on their uniforms, that kind of thing. See, there you go. They're not too bad as far as what they give you for the price. However, there are a few of the miniatures which are not nearly as good. So if we have a look at these little fellas here, as you can see, in some of those spaces, the molding gets really, really dodgy, and you lose a lot of that detail in things like the crook of the arm of that little guy there. And there's a bit of variety between the miniatures, a bit of quality control at times, but not as good. That's probably a bit too harsh. It's not too bad, but you do notice some that are better than others and have more detail than others, which is a bit of a problem on the whole. But yes, these are the guys in blue. Let's show you them painted up, shall we? So I like to describe myself as a fairly ungifted amateur when it comes to painting. So you'll basically get to see how bad it can get. I've got here both some speed paints and some straight acrylics, not very watered down. This was a lot earlier in my experience of painting. But as you can see, the one on the left with near the little smiley face there is the speed paint, and this is the acrylic. And that's more or less the product that you get at the end of the day. You'll notice that, and this is the only example where I've seen it in a big bad way, a bit of chipping that's gone all the way down to the blue. That may be just the quality of what I was using initially compared to what I've been using later. But these things do bend a little bit, and they don't. And so if you're using less quality paint, it will of course chip off. One thing to notice, of course, is that especially with the speed paints, the ones that sort of pool, if you don't get rid of that flashing, that indeed it will pull in those spaces and make it very apparent that there is a very pronounced seam line down the side of your dude. So yes, some of those issues that we have with the molds themselves, unless you take a lot of time to clean them up, is going to come back and bite you in a big bad way. And on that topic, this is one of the blokes that didn't have as much detail under that crook of the arm. Basically, I'm kind of in there and very, very dodgily painting up what's missing. There's sort of the strap lines across there, but then there's still enough of a little of a catch for it to pull in the arm, which is probably not a good thing at the end of the day. But yes, that's where that sort of lack of detail on some of the models will come back to bite you. So there you go, that's your British Light Infantry HaT miniatures for you. Again, I would say not as good quality as the Macedonians that I showed you previously. There are some issues in the way they've been molded that sort of show that you are indeed getting what you paid for. But again, for something where you're trying to get a lot of these together very quick, very cheap, again, if you're more of a beginner like myself in this sort of space, I am content with this option. I'm going to say content, especially from 3 foot away, once they're all in sort of mass ranks firing at convicts. I mean, really, is there a better experience than watching a bunch of redcoats firing into a bunch of colonial convicts? I don't know. But this is how they look. This is how they go. I'm content, but they are relatively cheap and they do in fact show. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful. If it was, like and subscribe, and I may be doing some more of these sort of HaT reviews as we go forwards. Thank you so much. Bye.